So, Ginger,
Yeah?
you know how we wanted to start a podcast, but we were having trouble coming up with a topic?
Yeah?
Okay, so here's my pitch. The topic of the podcast is us trying to come up with the topic for the podcast.
What, like we pitch each other podcast ideas and that's the podcast?
Yeah, exactly. We could call it, What Should Our Podcast Be About?
Miles, that's really stupid. Let's do it.
What should this song be about? I'm trying to figure it out. What should this song be about? Could you perhaps help me out? I've had a moment of doubt. What should this song be about? Welcome to What Should Our Podcast Be About? A podcast where we try to figure out what this podcast that you're listening to should be about. I'm Miles Grover.
And I'm Ginger Barham.
And today, we have some ideas that we solicited from friends on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I also have ideas, and I don't know if you have ideas, but...
I have a complete lack of original ideas on my end this week. But I will share some of the ones that I got on Facebook.
Yeah, so we put out a post just saying that we're working on this podcast about podcast ideas and mentioned the example of a false crime podcast, and a lot of people were like sort of missing the point and were very excited about this false crime podcast thing.
Yeah, we may have to circle back to that one.
So maybe we'll circle back around to that. But do you have one of the suggestions you want to talk about?
Yeah, so one suggestion from my friend Dina was a bad business podcast. She said, ways to epically destroy your business in fantastic fashion. I would say one downside to this is I feel like we're probably not going to come up with anything better than Elon Musk has come up with.
Yeah, also, or like best case scenario for this podcast is us recreating Belinda Blinked. My Dad Wrote a Porno podcast. Because that is hilarious and also definitely the most epic way to destroy your business.
Yeah, shout out to Dad Wrote a Porno. If you haven't listened to that podcast, you really should. It's certainly funnier than this one.
Well, don't sell us too short. Oh, yeah, okay, it is. But still. Also, I just don't know.
Also listen to this podcast.
Please continue listening to the podcast that you are listening to right now. Don't immediately turn it off, go listen to the other podcast, and never come back. That would not be what we would recommend.
That would not be ideal.
I also don't know anything about business, really, so, I wouldn't really know if suggestions I was giving... I mean, I have ideas, but,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably easier to ruin a business than to successfully run a business, so...
True. I guess that's true. You could just do the regular bad things. They don't have to specifically be bad business things, I guess.
It could be kind of fun.
Although some businesses do really bad... I mean, most businesses do very bad things and still are in business. So
yeah, that's true. But they do bad things to people and good things for their bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's one.
We had a suggestion from Polly who said, "Panda bears. How do we do away with this nonsense?"
Panda bears?
Yeah, with panda bears.
How do we get rid of panda bears?
Svetlana would definitely boycott us forever if we tried to do that.
His daughter loves panda bears.
She loves pandas. I mean, kind of everybody does, but
except Polly, apparently.
I guess. Also, I don't really know what the podcast there is. Us brainstorming how to get rid of pandas. I mean, you don't even really have to try because they're already so bad at reproducing and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think a more creative podcast might be, pandas. How do we keep them going?
How do we save them? But that's a very serious question. And also would involve...
I don't know, ways to get pandas to fuck could be kind of a fun podcast.
Could it? Then we have to think a lot about pandas fucking, and I don't know if that's totally our
No,
jam.
Not really. We just have to think a lot about panda foreplay.
I don't think you... Well, okay. Were you
going to say I don't know how panda sex works?
Well, in going to argue against that point, I realized that I would then... You would have successfully baited me into getting knee-deep in panda sex. And I think just even the words I just said are not where I want to be right now.
Well, it's not your best choice of phrasing. Knee deep in panda sex.
Yeah,
could be a good band name.
Yeah. I don't think I would listen to that band though.
Really?
Okay, I would give them a listen just to see.
Yeah.
But they probably
You'd have to check it out,
yeah,
right?
I would have to check it out.
I was gonna say, like, you say you wouldn't listen to it, but I feel like if that came onto your Spotify recommendations, you would check it out.
I definitely would. It could even turn out to be good, like that time when I listened to the band Ghost with a Boner.
Yeah, that's the one I was trying to
Yeah.
think of. That's the one
That
I was
was
trying to think
alright.
of. Excellent band name. Maybe a podcast where we come up with band names.
Band names?
That is almost certainly a podcast that already exists. But
Probably. I mean, coming up with band names is fun, but also I don't know that there's like who would listen to a podcast that was just two people going like, what about like dinosaurs with lasers? That's a pretty good band name, right?
well, I think it would be more fun if you came up with like the type of band and then tried to name it. Like, what should we call our Lynyrd Skynyrd cover band?
Sure.
And then you got to come up with
something relevant to Lynyrd Skynyrd.
which I picked a
was a
terrible
bad
example because I
example,
don't know any Lynyrd Skynyrd.
How
I mean, I
about-
probably know more Lynyrd Skynyrd than I think.
Right. What if we call the Lynyrd Skynyrd cover band Dinosaurs with Lasers?
See, it writes itself.
Yeah.
All right, another idea. This one is also from Dina. You're a life coach, but clearly you don't have your own shit together.
Yeah, okay.
Although in this same thread, Michael did point out that no life coach has their shit together, and this is every life coach podcast.
Right. I mean, I think you could make up a fun character that was like especially not having their shit together. By the way, I'm not sure we actually like cussed very much on previous episodes, so I guess we're just going for it in this one.
Yeah.
But leaving that aside, like
This podcast contains curse words. Should we have a warning?
no. It'll get an explicit tag if it needs one, I guess,
Okay.
or whatever. And yes, our baby is still in the room with us. But he doesn't know swear words. He
Yeah.
doesn't know any words.
This podcast is not for babies unless your baby doesn't talk or understand words yet.
Unless your baby's just cool.
Or if your baby's just cool.
But anyway, like you could come up with a character who like, well, I guess it's basically the Chris Farley skit where he lives in a van down by the river
Yeah.
and he's a motivational speaker.
Right, Matt Foley.
Is that the character's name?
Matt Foley, motivational speaker.
Yeah. A podcast of that. So
Well, I would think maybe less screaming.
maybe less screaming, but the basic joke would be that. Right?
Less
Like,
breaking into people's houses and shouting at them.
Well, don't limit our creativity too soon.
It could be things like, how to keep up on your dishes. But we're like, well, have you ever seen Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, because in that they just take the dishes up on the roof and then
And
use
they
them
shoot
for
'em for, like,
shooting practice.
skeet shooting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
skeet shooting.
Yeah, that does take care of it doesn't keep the dishes clean, but it does take care of the problem of the sink being full of dishes.
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, you do have a new problem,
Yeah.
which is you have no
You
dishes.
don't have any dishes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Could be fun.
Could be something, I guess.
All right, what else you got?
Somebody suggested, let's see, Julia suggested, instead of celebrity interviews, how about rando interviews where you interview a total stranger? I kind of feel like that exists, and also that's the least thing I ever want to do in my life. Like, there's people whose jobs are that, like reporters and stuff.
You're saying you don't want to walk around and talk to random people.
No, I don't want to interview random strangers because A, I have to talk to random strangers, and B, I have to come up with stuff to interview them about, and C, I probably don't really care.
I mean, there is the People
they
of New
say.
York Instagram account, which
Yeah.
I always find very interesting. But it comes along with like a picture and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that
And
could
it's
be
like-
fun, but it would be a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's like a 10-second bit of your time you're spending looking at the picture and reading the caption on that Instagram, right? Whereas this is like a podcast, so we have to find people who have interesting stuff, I mean, it's basically like This American Life or something, right? Like, it's that would be a lot of work, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be kind of fun, but
And I'm just saying, like,
I am a different kind of person.
Yeah, in terms of my personality or like what I enjoy doing, that kind of social interaction is one of my least favorites. So I don't think I would probably go for that.
All right.
Do you have more you want to talk about?
I only had one more, also from Dina. Most people on my Facebook just shouted out that they really liked the false crimes podcast idea. So the last one that Dina suggested was an investing tips podcast that destroys millionaires.
So the idea is we'd give bad advice, and then the millionaires who listen to our podcast would take that advice and go bankrupt.
Right. So we'd have to figure out a way to get millionaires to think that we know anything about finance.
Yeah, which I feel like we'd have to become like crypto bros or like some kind of right-wing grifter type. And there could be money in that, but it's not really how I want to spend my
I like the
time.
I like the sentiment a lot, though.
Yeah, I just don't know if podcasting is the way to achieve that goal.
No, probably not. But yeah, I do appreciate the sentiment, and any podcast that has the explicit goal of destroying millionaires is okay by me.
Yeah. My sister Sarah suggested, instead of a how-to podcast, a how-not-to podcast, detailing a new way to procrastinate each episode.
Oh, all right. That could be fun.
Sounds like it could be something, right? Like, you need to do your dishes, like we were just talking about. What is a good way to avoid doing that? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, this is actually the easiest thing to answer. Go watch TV or something, right? You know,
yeah.
Like, people don't have any trouble coming up with ways to procrastinate.
I personally
quite the opposite.
A lot of trouble coming up with ways to not procrastinate.
Right. Like, I feel like if it was going to be anything, it would have to be like really creative ways that make you either like make you feel like you're doing something important, or maybe actually even accomplish your goal by accident somehow.
Oh, that could be fun.
Like, how can you procrastinate and still somehow get the dishes done?
How can you procrastinate productively?
Right. Or maybe it's like you procrastinate the dishes by feeding the cats or by doing some other thing you got to do.
Be interesting to see if your microphone picks up the cat scratching post.
It probably is. Yeah, I think it would have to be. Yeah, I like, if I knew how to do that though, then I would have a totally different life than I currently have. Right?
We would have recorded this podcast a couple days ago.
We would have recorded this podcast years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, I could give the kind of advice that no one needs in terms of how to procrastinate, or we could give the kind of advice people would actually use, but we would need to get that advice first somehow.
I don't know why he's decided to do this now.
This will probably get edited out, but I just want to say that another additional cat crime has just occurred. Goosebump just tried to pull a light out of the light fixture and maybe electrocute himself. Anyway, yeah, so that was like the suggestions we got from Facebook. The other main takeaway is that people really liked the false crime podcast. One person posted a screenshot of an episode of Comedy Bang Bang where I guess Paul F. Tompkins made the same or similar joke about having a false crime podcast called Murder Was Wrote, I guess.
Well, everything's been done, right?
That's true. And it did give me the idea, what if we did a podcast that was a false crime podcast where we make up crimes that Paul F. Tompkins has done? or we look at crimes and try to like pin them on Paul F. Tompkins somehow.
I feel like that could maybe land us into a little bit of hot water.
I mean, we would have to disclaim that obviously we don't really believe it or whatever. And
yeah.
Paul F. Tompkins seems like a cool guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, for having the audacity to make a joke that we made way before we made it, we could try to show how he's actually the Zodiac killer or whatever. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think a false crimes podcast could be fun. It could be fun to maybe have, a segment on it where we say, we would make up a couple crimes, but it'd be like a two truths and a lie kind of thing. One of these crimes is real. And then we just would have to find the most ridiculous. There's some ridiculous crimes out there.
Sure. I think, another idea I had around false crimes is what if we're not making up like a crime that occurred, but we're making up like crimes as in like statutes, right? Like we make up how, like, I don't know, like it's illegal in Arizona to wear a tutu while you drink Mountain Dew or something.
All right.
Like,
that could be fun.
Maybe that could be something. I don't know.
Yeah.
False crimes that don't exist.
Yeah, and statutes that don't exist.
Yeah, kind of thing.
I mean, there's some pretty ridiculous statutes out there that do exist, like.
Right. It could be.
No riding a horse on a Tuesday.
Right. It could be a two truths and a lie thing too. Of like, these two are real crimes or real statutes somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we make up one and you have to guess.
Yeah.
But I do feel like that runs into the problems we've talked about before of like, how many ridiculous crimes are there? How many ridiculous statutes are there? Maybe there's 100, but like you run out pretty fast, right? Even if there's kind of a lot.
Yeah.
As far as making a podcast.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I don't know though. There's a lot. I think it would probably take longer than you think to run out.
I don't know. Like, I think that there are probably a lot of crimes that are stupid and shouldn't still be statutes, but probably most of them aren't that funny.
Well, that could also be a segment that doesn't happen every week. It could be like, Munch Squad or something, where it happens.
A podcast within a podcast.
Yeah, where it happens once in a while.
Yeah, I think like a bit, basically.
Yeah, a bit.
But then, okay, so then what's the main podcast in that case? The crimes of Paul F. Tompkins? The false crimes of Paul F. Tompkins?
Is this the one we want to expand upon this week?
I don't know. I think we might have more stuff we can talk about.
So what ideas have we had so far this week? We've had or do you have any more ideas?
I have more ideas. And I don't feel like I loved any of the stuff we've talked about. And the false crime thing could be fun. I just don't quite feel the hook on it yet for me. Because, like, it's very easy to make up a false crime. I saw Todd, punch a cop on the street.
Well, yeah,
right?
but it's...
which is actually a pretty cool crime. So, but leaving that aside, like, what would even be a
but you gotta make
fun
up
false crime?
Right. It's gotta be... That's the point. It's gotta be a funny false crime.
Right, exactly.
Like
I saw Paul F. Tompkins punching a cop.
Like,
no, that's still...
I saw Paul F. I heard Paul F. Tompkins went into a bank with the purpose of robbing the bank. But he wanted to wait till everybody was out of the bank. So he pretended like he was opening up a bank account. Except, so he waited for everybody to leave. Pretended to open a bank account. He asked for a form and everything. And then when everybody left, he robbed the bank. Except he left the new account form on the counter, and he'd written his name and address on it. So they just drove and picked him up from his house.
Yeah, I mean that's. I feel like that has actually happened.
That's an actual crime. I didn't
sure.
make that one up.
Also,
but I did make up that Paul F. Tompkins did it.
Well, right, but also if it was Paul F. Tompkins doing it, the cashier or whatever would probably be like, "Whoa, aren't you Paul F. Tompkins?"
No, he had a mustache on.
Well, he had a mustache on top of his mustache.
He was wearing a mustache on top of his mustache.
He had a mustache on, but on a different part of his face.
Yeah, also
He had a second mustache.
He had special eyebrows.
Which were also mustaches. He had mustaches for eyebrows.
He wore some old-timey sideburns.
Yeah.
And a silly hat.
So I'm just not feeling like the core to it there. Or like quite... I'm not feeling the spark, I guess. Or whatever you want to call it.
What about a podcast where we just come up with ways for Paul F. Tompkins to disguise himself?
Where different places for him to have a mustache.
I think that one would run out of steam pretty quickly.
Yeah, probably. Let me look at my list of other ideas, because like I said, I'm not feeling any of these so far, unless you're super into any of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we should talk more about panda sex for sure.
Yeah, but you say that all the time, regardless of whether we're recording a podcast or not. So, honestly, I get enough of that at home. I don't need that on my podcast as well.
Every Tuesday.
When we go down to the zoo. Yeah. Okay, one idea I had was we love bad movies.
All right.
We watch probably more bad movies than good movies. Maybe not literally, but almost.
It's close, yeah.
I've definitely seen The Room starring Tommy Wiseau dozens of times, maybe 100 times. I don't know, a lot of times. And I've seen Troll 2 many times, and lots of other bad movies. And we really enjoy that. But and so that would be a natural idea for a podcast, right? In fact, I even started a podcast like that with a friend of mine 10, 15, a long time ago, many years ago, several years ago anyway. But there already are quite a few successful podcasts that are bad movie podcasts.
Right.
Right? There's The Flophouse, How Did This Get Made? And some of them even have How Did This Get Made is a bunch of not A-list celebrities, but fairly well-known comedian types. I can't even remember at the moment who's on it, but anyway, so the market's kind of full, right? Mm-hmm. So what we need is a twist.
Right. And
so what if it's just one of those podcasts, but we just do it in a Muppet voice the whole time? We just act like that's our voice, and we're just always in character as
Okay. Well, the first major flaw I see with this idea is that I don't know if I can do any Muppet voices.
Okay, but a weird voice, right? Some kind of crazy voice.
All right.
I don't know.
So it's like a bad movie podcast, but more annoying?
Is it more annoying? Imagine Kermit or something. Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog. You're tearing me apart, Lisa. Right? That's pretty fun, right?
That's pretty fun. If you could do a Kermit voice, which I can't.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying I don't know. I feel doing goofy voices would be fun. And also saying lines from bad movies that we like would be fun. So it almost feels like something, but maybe not.
I feel like if we're doing Muppets, might have some legal issues there.
So, okay, so maybe that's not it, but I feel what if it's most of the biggest podcasts are celebrity podcasts, right?
Right.
Or a lot of the big ones are if you're a celebrity and you start a podcast, you're probably going to do pretty well.
So you're saying if we pretend to be Kermit,
no,
we get more listeners.
Well, maybe we say I'm the real Kermit the Frog. I'm the real guy, and this is my podcast.
The real guy frog.
The real frog.
The real frog guy.
No, but we could do some kind of just podcast where we do celebrity impressions, bad ones, right? Every episode we pretend to be two different celebrities, and neither of us is especially good at celebrity impressions.
Right.
Right. So it would just be
would you want to listen to a podcast where people were doing bad celebrity impressions the whole time?
Maybe.
Or would you get annoyed after a few minutes?
Yeah.
I feel you'd probably get annoyed after a few minutes. I don't think you've thought this through.
No, I mean, I just feel it could be something.
It could
Maybe
be.
Not. Maybe not.
I mean, I do enjoy you doing your Kermit voice.
Yeah.
But any celebrity impression I do is definitely going to be a bad one.
But maybe it would be funny to do say that you're, I'm doing John Hamm. Hi-ho, I'm John Hamm. Right? Do the same bad Kermit impression for every No, that's probably not it.
Probably not it, no. I mean, I'm definitely for working in Kermit impressions to our podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on board with that. Alright, you got any other ideas to throw at me? Because otherwise we're just gonna have to go back to panda sex.
It always comes back to panda sex. I wrote down toilet reviews.
Where we review different types of
toilets. We're oh, this is the Blastmaster 5000. This is the best toilet I've ever used, or whatever.
Well, are we going to review actual toilets? Meaning we're going to have to like go around to places and use different toilets? Or are we just going to make up toilets?
We're getting toilets delivered every day.
Oh, this sounds like an expensive
and
podcast.
Swapping out our current toilet for the new toilet in the pursuit of the perfect toilet experience.
Well, I gotta say, part of my perfect toilet experience is just having a toilet and not having my bathroom remodeled daily.
Yeah, but like some toilets are not very good. And
That's
some
true.
Toilets are better.
But if you have an okay toilet, I mean, aren't you just like, I don't feel like I need that much out of a toilet, you know? Like, it gets like good enough, and then I'm like, this is fine.
I mean, I've heard
it does what I need it to do.
I've heard that they have like luxury fancy toilets in like Japan and stuff.
Okay, so we're gonna fly to Japan and use the luxury fancy.
I don't know what
Japanese toilets.
I don't know what the luxury amenities are for these toilets. I guess they probably have seat warmers, which we actually already have on our toilet.
Oh, what about a podcast where we come up with new toilet features?
Inventing a new toilet?
Inventing new toilet features.
Build a better toilet and the world will beat down your door. Isn't that something? Inventing new toilets.
Inventing new toilets.
We might run out of material somewhat quickly, I guess, on that one.
Well, I think with your idea, we're going to run out of money for new toilets pretty quickly.
Okay. Maybe it's a virtual toilet.
That's not a thing, though. So you're going to build a virtual toilet first.
Toilets in video games.
Are there many toilets in video games?
There are some. I don't know what we would review about them.
Too pixelated. 0 stars.
The lid doesn't even come up. It's fake. What the hell?
We'd be playing a lot of Sims, probably.
Yeah, I guess so. Another idea I had was, what if we... some of these ideas are just things I think would be funny because they're so bad ideas. So just putting that out there.
All right.
What if
I thought that was all of these.
Well...
Were some of these supposed to be good?
Some of them are coming out kind of good.
Are you sure about that?
Previous episodes. Maybe not in this episode.
Have you asked for a second opinion?
So the idea was, what if we just read comics a lot on the podcast and then like...
Describe what's happening?
Describe what's happening and then kind of just chuckle and then move on to the next one. I'm going to go get a comic book and...
Are we going to try it out?
Try it out.
Going to try it out? Okay. Oh, he's coming back. And he's brought Calvin and Hobbes with him.
Okay, this is book 2 of the complete Calvin and Hobbes. I'm going to turn to a random page.
Oh, so we're going to read the comic in the middle, too.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, starting with the Calvin and Hobbes comic from October 9th, 1989.
All right.
In the panel 1, Calvin says, he's looking at a book, and he says, "Man, this is boring." Well, that's really appropriate.
How prescient.
He's in the second panel, he says, "How am I ever going to read 3 whole pages of this by tomorrow? It's impossible." And he's sitting at his desk looking at his book. And in the next panel 3, Calvin says, "Impossible? Why, nothing's impossible." And he's striking the book with his fist. And then in panel 4, he says, "Not for stupendous man, ba-ba-ba-da-dum, ba-ba-da-da-dum." And he's jumped out of his chair and he's running to the closet.
Okay, so you've gone through 4 panels and I'm already bored.
All right, and then in the next one...
No, this is
now he's stupendous man. Yes, it's stupendous man, friend of freedom, opponent of oppression, lover of liberty. Great moons of Jupiter. Calvin, stupendous man's 6-year-old alter ego, has 3 pages of boring homework to read. It's tyranny.
You didn't describe the drawing in that last panel.
You're right. It's he kind of looks like Batman, but without he's got little ears, little batty ears, I guess, and he's he looks like he's got Calvin's kind of round head.
How are you feeling about this? Is this fun for you?
I was hoping it would be more fun.
Yeah, I had a feeling it wouldn't be.
Yeah. Okay, but on the next page, all right, I'll put the book away.
Anything we feel like expanding on this week?
Is there anything we can do where we talk like Muppets?
What about a podcast where we both talk like Kermit and we try to figure out how to get pandas to have sex?
Okay. Let's hear your Kermit.
One of the downsides is I'd have to learn to talk like Kermit. I could do the Russian Kermit from the second Muppet movie, the second of the new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Hello, I'm Kermit.
I am Kermit.
I am Kermit.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of just sounds like you with a Russian accent, but I guess.
I'm Kermit.
And I mean, yeah. Okay.
I didn't say I could do it well.
Okay, and now talk about panda sex.
I am Kermit. We must figure out how to make the pandas have sex.
But I don't want to make the pandas have sex. That's not a very good Kermit. It's getting worse. Like,
I didn't think you would be on board with this idea and that we would have to actually flesh it out. Pun intended.
Yeah, I called your bluff. Oh, pun it. No, let's not. All right, panda flesh. Great.
Panda meat.
Panda meat. I don't know. I probably have other ideas, but nothing's really landing right now.
We could call it Panda-moaning.
There's probably already a podcast called Panda-moaning. Panda-moaning.
Oh, Panda-moaning.
Panda-moaning them? Panda-moaning them?
For someone who doesn't want to talk about panda sex, you're pretty into puns about pandas fucking.
This one is on you.
The panda?
I don't think that's the way to get... I don't think you guys are probably compatible.
This is gross. Why are you making it weird?
Why am I making it weird? So what do we got? What do we got right now? We got
a life coach podcast where we give where we're a life coach that clearly doesn't have their shit together.
Right. So basically just a bad advice podcast.
Yeah, which already exists.
It's like a Bim Bam or something.
Yeah.
Or probably lots of them, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, what if it's an advice podcast, but we talk like Kermit?
And we try to give advice like what we think Kermit would say.
I just realized that a bad advice podcast where you sound like Kermit is just Jordan Peterson's podcast.
Oh, God. Well, scratch that idea.
Clean your room.
No.
Not beautiful.
I mean, Jordan Peterson is spot on. But I mean, so's your Kermit, so that's not surprising.
Okay, what if we sort of mentioned this, what if we just do, if we want to make a big, like, podcast that makes us a lot of money, we could just do a conservative grifter podcast and just say dumb shit about like trans people.
Yeah, but then you gotta be a conservative grifter.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're talking about making a satire podcast.
Yeah,
but the problem with that is satire
how would
is...
you even tell at this point?
Yeah.
But it's good money. Apparently.
Yeah, if you have no soul.
If you're,
or morals, or...
Yeah,
I mean, what are you going to suggest?
Steven Crowder.
What are you going to suggest next? We become landlords?
Landlords, the podcast. That's, I don't know.
No.
We could do a podcast about how landlords are bad.
Yeah, I mean, that would not necessarily be the funniest podcast, but I would sure enjoy making it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would actually enjoy making it. I think it would bum me out even more. Oh, hello, Rory. You got something to say? What's your podcast idea? Yeah, I think a landlord podcast would just bum me out for sure.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to be done pretty quick here. He's probably hungry and I need to feed him.
Okay. A breastfeeding podcast. I feel like you might have less to controt to that. That's true. That's good for me though. Then I just chill out and make the podcast and do all the work.
Is it what would the breastfeeding podcast be? Just you asking me questions about breastfeeding?
Maybe it's just an ASMR podcast of you just breastfeeding him on a mic.
Well, I would be recording often.
Yeah, I don't know anyone would want to listen to that, really.
No. I mean, there's probably a couple people out there that do.
Somebody would
I
probably
don't know that I want to record that
but,
podcast.
Yeah. We had some kind of podcast where we talk like Kermit. We have bad advice podcasts of various types. We have more false crime ideas, I guess, or pinning crimes on Paul F. Tompkins.
Koala Crimes was an idea you had.
That's something we mentioned before, Koala Crimes podcast.
We had the Bad Investing podcast that destroys millionaires, which is good in theory, but probably not something we would be able to do.
Yeah, and it's just another kind of bad advice, really. What if we were going to do the toilet reviews podcast?
I mean, that could be fun to expand on, maybe just all of the practical considerations that would go into it. Okay, we've got to go to people's houses and ask to use their toilets.
Okay, yeah, so we're not like in a showroom. We want the real scoop on these toilets.
Right.
For people that have pooped on them for at least a month or something.
So we're just gonna knock on doors. Can I talk to you about your toilet? If I can't use it, can you tell me what you like about it, what you don't like about it?
What's your make and model? What kind of engine you got in there? It's like car talk.
Yeah, like toilets. Car talk, but toilet talk.
Toilet talk.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Toilet talk?
Toilet talk.
That's kind of similar to potty mouth, but I guess it's different.
Potty mouth would maybe be a good title for it as well.
Maybe if they're bad toilets, if they're really bad toilets, we cuss them out.
So what kind of things make for a bad toilet?
I used to be on this Facebook group called Toilets with Threatening Auras that I left after a while because the auras were kind of too threatening.
What's a toilet with a threatening aura? You use the internet very differently than I do.
It's just, it's what it says is on the tin. If you look at a picture of a toilet and it has a threatening aura, that's what it is.
So it's like when you see those, when you're looking at pictures of the inside of a home and it looks like the toilet is lurking, waiting to jump you.
Yeah, I think it was things like bathrooms where there's two toilets right next to each other, or a toilet decorated to look like a clown that's eating you or your poop or whatever. Toilets that are overflowing or something, or just really dirty and nasty, or the room they're in is really dirty and nasty.
Yeah, so what if we show up at somebody's house and we want to try out their toilet and it's just disgusting? It's not really the toilet's fault.
You know what I think is actually fun about this idea though is who cares about the toilet reviews? That doesn't even make sense. I'm sure there's a handful of brands of toilets, but they're not very different. But the idea of doing a podcast where we just go to people's house and ask, can we try out your toilet? And seeing how they respond.
Isn't there a podcast called Can I Pet Your Dog? Right? So this is Can I Use Your Toilet?
I think it's got to be Can I Try Out Your Toilet?
Can I try out your toilet?
Because Can I Use Your Toilet? Can I use your toilet sounds like I have an emergency, please be a bro and help me out, right? Whereas Can I Try Out Your Toilet makes it clear that you don't really need to go. You just want to see what it's like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we go door to door. We go door to door and just record people's. I wonder if do you know if this is a two-party state or a one-party state as far as recording goes? I don't know if you have to have
permission,
consent to broadcast people when you ask them if you can try out their toilet.
Yeah, that's a potential concern. Okay, so let's pretend that that's not a concern.
Yeah, so if it is we just go to a one-party state. I'm sure there's one of the ones.
Okay, so now we're driving to other states to ask people if we can try their toilets.
We're going to New Jersey or Delaware or someplace.
Okay, all right, not too far.
Or New Hampshire or whatever. Vermont, whatever borders our stupid state on the other side. Pennsylvania. We're going to Philly, assuming that maybe Pennsylvania, or if Pennsylvania is a one-party state or whatever. We're going to Pennsylvania. We're saying, hi, we're from New York, and we just came because we want to try out your toilet.
How do we decide what houses to go to? Are we just walking down the street?
I mean, I was initially thinking how would we get into building? Like around here, everybody's in like an apartment building.
Right.
So we'd have to just start with our apartment building and ask all our neighbors.
It's a good thing we're planning on moving soon.
Pretty awkward. And then we could also wait outside other buildings until somebody does a delivery. Oh, or we just buzz the people.
I mean, I think probably everyone in this building, we probably have the same toilet we do.
That's true. Probably. Well, maybe it's like salaries where you assume everyone's getting paid the same as you, but some of the people, everyone else has like a luxury toilet.
Yeah.
We just have regular toilets.
Yeah, and we're gonna blow the lid off this thing.
Blow the lid off this toilet. This
Ew,
toilet
no.
of
Don't say it like that.
corruption. The toilet's a metaphor.
The toilet of
landlording. I don't know. We could just buzz people also.
Yeah.
Right, and get their response over buzz. Hi, I'm come from 2 states over, and I would like to try out your toilet, please.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is that you don't want to go up and interview random people and hear their stories. That's a no from you. But knocking on doors and asking, can I try out your toilet, is in your wheelhouse.
Well, now that I think about it, I mean, at least the upside of this versus that, the toilet idea versus the interview idea is I've already got my interview question for the toilet thing sorted out. I don't need to think of anything. And B, it's kind of a ding-dong dash kind of situation. I'm not hoping to have more than a few
Unless
moments.
they say yes.
You're right. That's the nightmare scenario. They say yes, and then they say yes. You go in, and they've got one of those fucking spongy toilet seats.
Oh,
and it's
no.
And it's got cracks in it.
Oh, no.
And like pictures of teddy bears on it or something.
And then, yeah, and like embroidery.
And like.
And then you come out, and they're standing there. And they ask you what you thought.
Yeah, now they want to know what your take was.
And they're like, what did you think? Just standing there expectantly.
And like we could just walk in, close the door, hang out for a while, flush the toilet, and come back out. But we have integrity, so we would have to actually use the toilet.
Right.
If they said yes.
Right. We can't pretend to review toilets.
No. That would be
unethical.
So we're rocking up to somebody's house. We're knocking on the door. We're saying, "Hi, we're Toilet Talk, a toilet review podcast, and we want to try out your toilet." And
nothing about this gives you anxiety.
Everything about it gives me anxiety, but it's also pretty funny. So
it is funny.
Like, on the other hand, beyond just social anxiety, we could quite literally get shot in America trying to go up on people's porches to use their toilets.
But who knows? Maybe we'll do it.
So actually my anxiety was less than it really should have been, now that I think about it, even there. But yeah, I think we're going to need to wrap it up.
Maybe we'll be back next week with Toilet Talk.
Maybe next week.
Maybe we'll be dead.
Maybe we'll be dead, and there won't be a next week, as far as we're concerned. Thank you for listening. Rory's getting upset, so we're going to have to go now.
Follow us on social media.
Follow us on the things and give us reviews and stuff on the podcast things. The things. Smash that like button and so on. Hey friends, just jumping in here to say that if you do indeed want to follow us on social media, you can do so by going to our internet homepage, which is at www.coolpodcast.website. That URL again is www.coolpodcast.website, and you can find links to our social media and follow like you said you wanted to just a second ago. I heard you say it. Anyway, back to the episode. Thank you again for listening. Thanks to Rory for being chill for most of this. And we'll toilet talk to you later.
That's nothing.
Bye.
Bye.
What was that podcast about? I'm trying to figure it out. What was that podcast about? Could you perhaps help me out? I guess I'm gonna go pout. Didn't catch what that was about.